I'm Richard Porter.
I'm Jonny Smith.
And this is On the Other Side of Things, the Smith & Sniff spin-off in which we answer your questions.
Welcome to the half-hour version of the hour version, which involves questions and then us answering them.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
hello@smithandsniff.com is the email address for your questions. Mark your email Otosot. It helps us to find questions.
It does.
As opposed to normal emails.
I'm going to just...
All right, housekeeping over.
I'm immediately going to just kick it into kick down and just let the auto scream. I'm going straight to this email, this letter that we had from a chap called Sean Rashwell, and he sent it a while ago, a couple of months ago. But that's not a lot for us. And
No.
Otosot, 2,400 miles across the USA in a $1,500 Mercedes 300D. That's the title. Good morning, you pair of indignant flutes. Been listening for a good while, but I've never written in. Question: what is the stupidest car and road trip combination you've ever taken? We'll come back to that question because he's sort of given us his. I recently purchased a cheap, in italics and bold, 1984 Mercedes 300D W123. Partly inspired by James May's W123 230 injection in the Top Gear Botswana special. It appears to be the same colour as May's car as well, thistle green metallic, one of the best greens that Merc came in actually. A few things have rung true. Mine had a 5-speed gear knob on it despite having a 4-speed gearbox. Same thing happened to James May.
Trick.
Instead of having a broken left side mirror right-hand drive, my car came factory with no mirror, right-hand side mirror. Comical.
So no passenger mirror?
Yes. It was a Euro spec car that was federalised sometime in the 80s, but they forgot to replace the bumpers with the infamous US ones. Hurrah for that. I've attached a few iPhone pictures from my road trip for your viewing pleasure, which we will share with our Patreons. And thank you if you are a Patreon. So I bought the $1,500 123 and attempted to drive from Salt Lake City, Utah to Boston, Massachusetts. The engine let go, full stop. Bought an Audi Avant / estate in Colorado and I drove it home, in brackets. Shortest route was 2,366 miles.
Bloody hell.
I put $650 worth of parts into it, so around $2,150 in total. The question is, do I go back for the Mercedes or do I mail the seller back the title and have him sell it on for me? Or do I sell it to my friend's dad for $1,500 and I cut my losses? He's also got a 300D and a 240D, so he could use those Euro bumpers for a start. That's a long way to travel for Euro bumpers, but anyway.
It's quite expensive, surely, is it? Or
yes.
Is that what they go for? I don't know.
No, well, in this country and Europe, you get a lot cheaper. I made it 4 hours away to Mojave, where the infamous arch is, before properly sending the swapped turbo diesel 5-cylinder to the moon. I discovered to my amazement around 1.5 quarts of what I suspect was diesel somehow in the oil, at least, knocking like sound presented itself and could no longer idle or make any power. Oil was overfilled when I bought it. I did an oil change soon after. It seemed okay. Had the seller's friend, the sweetest of SSGs, tow me 12 hours later into Mojave, the town, and then I bought the Minty. $2,500 manual Audi A4 Avant with 221,000 miles on it in Newcastle. I drove it to Denver, then Joplin, then Nashville, then Blairsville, then Blacksburg, then York, then Peekskill, and then home.
Into a blues song.
Yes. It just says, thanks you two SSGs, keep that Roadster face on. That we need to make a sticker of that. P.S. Richard's review of the Subaru Legacy on Old Top Gear was an excellent watch, and if you're ever in Utah and fancies yourself a W123 Merc, just let me know. Sean, what a great letter.
So basically, the Merc launched its engine, so he just went, screw it, I'll just go buy another car, and then carried on his journey to many, many states and cities and what have you. But that's amazing. But he still owns the Merc.
He still owns the Merc, and he's just trying to work out whether he should go back and save it. And my answer to that is a nice colour. Yeah. And also, they used to be dirt cheap in the States, and I don't think they are anymore. They're certainly not over here. Top condition ones in the UK now are 25 grand. 20 to 25. I can't believe it, because I mean, I used to just drive them and then get rid.
So the question is stupid car and road trip combo.
Stupidest car road trip combination that you have ever taken. It's an interesting one, isn't it?
I mean, I don't think I've ever done a really idiotic one, but when I was at university in Cardiff, I drove with two friends from Cardiff to Edinburgh and back in an original Mini.
Oh, bloody hell.
That was quite hard work in a strange sort of way. I mean, I remember that my mate Andy was in the back seat, sort of sitting crossways effectively, because there was no leg room.
Yeah, side saddling it.
Exactly, side saddling it. And I was driving. We were all insured to drive. It was my friend Mike's car, but we were all insured to drive it. And we were on the motorway, and it was a later Mini, so it was a 90s one, so it's 1275, and it could hold 70, and it wasn't struggling too much in fourth, as long as the motorway was flat. Any sniff of a hill, and it sort of, you just feel the speed bleeding off. But I remember sitting on a flat bit of motorway, holding a steady speed, it all seemed fine, and Andy was uncomfortable, cramped in the back, and sort of shifted position quite significantly, and it felt like the whole car hopped across the lane with the weight transfer in the back, because the three of us made up a ridiculous percentage of the overall weight of the car, if you see what I mean.
Oh, yeah.
So there was that, and the fact it was a very small, cramped car, and it was quite a long way. I think we did it twice, because I think we did it again. We used to get the Edinburgh Festival. I think we did it twice and back again.
You mad swines.
I just go, oh my God, why would we do that? I suppose it's because Mike was the only person we knew had a car, so what else could you do?
Yeah, that is... I mean, stupidest car. I'm going to say... Not because if it was fully functioning, it would have been a stupid idea, but when I bought my very cheap Highwayman camper van from a man in that part of London where Mark Bolan died, which I've in a minute
Barnes.
Talking of minis, Barnes.
Yeah,
I bought it from a bloke in Barnes who had a St Bernard dog that took up most of the interior of this camper van. And when I drove it, my then girlfriend, we decided to tour around Cornwall with it, and I've talked about this before. Things happened to it. It didn't actually get home under its own power, ultimately. It actually, near your neck of the woods, near Bath, on the motorway, the white smoke started coming out of the exhaust, and it finally let go of its big ends. But so it did get us around Cornwall, even with... And I used to revel at the fact that it's a 3 abreast seater at the front, like a lot of vans are, but the middle seat would lift up and you could access the engine from the top. And I remember joining the motorway on the slip road, and the engine just started spluttering, and I knew that what had happened, the HT lead had come off, the King lead had come off, or was wobbling off. So I opened the seat up at like 50 miles an hour and just wedged my hand in there and just pushed the HT lead back on, making sure I didn't put my hand in the cooling fan.
Yes.
And, so that was obviously the time which I've talked about before, where I fell through the bunk that had rotted. And landed on the draining board. Without any clothes on.
Was this when you repainted it in a traffic jam?
Oh, yeah, that was right. Yeah. So that was... that was another time. So I think I took it to Cornwall twice. But so
do you still speak to the young lady who accompanied you on this trip?
No, I haven't spoken to her in probably 18 years, 17 years.
Okay. I'm just curious to get her perspective on this adventure in retrospect.
Well, maybe I should write to her and say, "Hey, haven't spoken to you in 17 years. Do you remember when we went in that dismal camper to Cornwall?" We'll see. So there is that. And
she'd say yes. Actually, I was just talking to my therapist about it last week.
Road trip combo. Yeah, I've not done... I mean, I've borrowed press cars and things, and driven Caterhams quite a long way, and aerial atoms. So I guess you'd call those sort of quite silly cars. But actually, when you get in the groove of it, they're quite nice. They're quite zen. They feel like when you're riding a motorbike and you're just focusing on the riding, driving. It's actually quite therapeutic.
I think you're right. Okay, well, I'm going to move on to another email, this time from a listener called Jason Crouch. He says, "Hello, you Draylon-clad, button-back, three-piece, sweet guy." Three-piece, sweet guy. That's very good.
That is very good. Sweet.
Jason says, "I've just managed to catch up with the entirety of this here podcast since starting in September last year. It has left a gaping chasm of utter drivel in my life I'm not sure how to fill. I now know to some extent how Jonny felt after he'd exhausted all of his Iron Maiden YouTube videos."
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, speaking of YouTube, I run a channel dedicated to restoring and customising die-cast models of Matchbox, Corgi and Hot Wheels.
Oh.
I made a replica of Johnny's Beetle some time back, which I really ought to send over. My earliest memory of a die-cast model car was a Mercedes 300E which towed a caravan. According to my parents, I used to call it the Miladies, said in the same fashion as Parker from Thunderbirds. It spawned an early love of Mercs and eventually led to me buying an aquamarine blue R129SL a few years back, which I still have.
Great coloured car.
Great coloured car. I can picture that. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
So Jason says, "My question to you is this. Did you have a favourite die-cast model car as a child? And did you get an opportunity to own a real one? Or did it inspire you to buy something similar in reality?"
Jason is a really... I love watching these sort of die-cast videos. I don't know why. I just find them quite comforting. But I've still got...
I should say this before I forget to plug Jason's channels on YouTube and Instagram. He's Diecast Restos.
Lovely. Well, Jason, I have still got all my cars from my Matchbox and Hot Wheels cars from yesteryear in a carry case, a very pleathery and probably flammable plastic case. Matchbox something on it. It's got a really cool picture. The one that I aspired to for ages, and I remember going into the post office and they had a little glass-topped cabinet where they used to put all the new Matchbox cars they got in. Honestly, and it was right at my height as a young kid. I gazed into it, and there was a black 57 Chevy Bel Air, and it had flames up the bonnet, and it had a tilt-forward flip front with a chrome supercharged engine that you could see, and I just absolutely had to have it. And it took me weeks of pocket money and nagging my mum, and I remember going in and buying it and then holding it in my hand and flipping forward the bonnet to see the V8. And I've still got that damn car. I've flipped the bonnet forward so many times I think the hinges on the bonnet are very wobbly. But it's funny, isn't it? It's just a tiny little Matchbox toy, but I love it. And I have got, well, thanks to lots of people from the Late Break Show and listeners of this podcast, I've got several Matra Rancho models, and I do now own a real one, although I haven't driven it, and it is rotten to hell. But there will be some news on that soon. On that side of things.
There's one of my favourites. I just remembered this that I used to love, and I was given it by a neighbour. You know, when you're kids sometimes, and there are people in your neighbourhood or friends of your parents whose kids are older than you and have outgrown stuff, and so you get an inheritance, and quite often it's just like clothes or shoes, and you're not really interested. But every so often it might be some Lego. Yeah. And a lady on our street whose kids were a lot older, she was having a clear out. She went, "I've got all these toy cars. Would you like them?"
Oh my gosh.
And they were like, their kids were quite a lot older, and I think they must have inherited these cars from somebody else as well, because these were like dinky cars from I think the 60s.
60s.
And there were two that were really amazing to me. One was an Alvis Stalwart in BP exploration colours.
Yes, it's a military thing, yes.
Yeah. 6-wheel amphibious thing. But this was, they were usually military, but they sold them to like oil companies for exploration stuff. So this was in BP colours. The tyres, I don't know what had gone wrong. The tyres had somehow it wouldn't stay on the wheels, basically. So you couldn't play with it because the tyres immediately came off, which I assume is just because of its age.
Yeah.
But the other one was, the Austin 1800 Aerodynamica, that Pininfarina
You said pissing
concert.
Farina.
No,
Pissing Farina.
That, which was built on an Austin 1800 chassis, and looked and was a massive influence on Citroën when they were doing the GS and the CX, because this predated them. And they had a model of that, which was absolutely fantastic, and had very bungee suspension. Like when you pushed down on it or pretended it was doing cornering, it had a lot of give in the suspension, unusually so, which I just thought was extra brilliant somehow because it seemed appropriate for the car. But my three favourite Corgi cars were a Matra Rancho, which, again, thanks to the generosity of listeners, I've got some Ranchos now that people have given us at live shows. But I've still got my original red Corgi Rancho, which had the little slider on the bottom so you could fold down the back seat.
Oh, gosh, I forgot about that.
It's a weirdly sort of practical detail to put into a toy car.
It is, isn't it? It is a bit weird.
Loved the white Jaguar XJS from the Saint.
Oh, yes.
That was my absolute favourite. And I would really love one day to own an early XJS in white. I just think they look so good. And my other favourite, this is more relevant possibly to Jason's question, was an original red Mini Metro, which I loved. It had opening doors and tailgate because it was the Corgi scale. And there was just something very neat and very cool about it, I thought, as a slightly strange child. And I've still got that car. In fact, if you've seen the Roy Lanchester book, How to Be a Motoring Journalist, that I wrote a few years ago, there is a model Metro on the front of that. That's my Corgi Metro from when I was a kid, which I've still got and is on a shelf in my office. And I suppose that's the one that's finally come to pass because I now own a Metro. So there we go. I'm
still reeling at the fact you bought that car. It's great. Love it.
I know. So I sometimes forget because obviously it's at the moment it's awaiting recommissioning, and I forget it's mine, and then I have to have a look at a picture of it, and it always makes me smile. Anyway, I'm going to move on to another question.
Yes, I'm going to read this one out from a chap called Joe Stinton. Hi, you pair of tromboning DSGs. Some old uni mates and I are having a sports day or sports day event this summer, and one of the events consists of car sauna. Hot day, windows up, heating on full, last person to leave the car wins. We are, however, trying to decide which car would be best to test our incredible sporting credentials in. My NC Power retractable hardtop PHRT, or fart if you prefer, MX-5 has all the ingredients to be unbearable. Small cabin, black paint, heated seats. Oh gosh, I forgot about heated seats. And a heater toasty enough to singe your knuckle hairs on a cold day. However, it has the disadvantage of only having capacity to host 1v1 games. My question is, what would be the hottest car possible to play this rather moronic game in? Okay, I mean, I love this moronic game already.
Is a really strong contender, though, because of all the reasons that Joe lists.
Yeah.
But, and particularly because it's the hard top.
Yeah.
That's going to keep the heat in better, surely.
Oh, yeah, it probably would do,
also,
actually, wouldn't it?
Bespoke car, as in bespoke soft top car, designed from the off to have no roof. So you think that probably the heater is an appropriately spec'd heater. So it will absolutely blast, as he says, heat out. And it's small. The interior's small, so it's like you're not heating spare air.
No, the airspace is
all just
tiny.
Going around you.
Awful.
God, that's going to be horrific.
I'm getting stressed just thinking about it, actually.
Because otherwise, I think it does need to be something with a small cabin. But the only way you could up the ante on that is something with a really massive engine that comes quite into the interior.
Well, yeah. I was thinking along those lines. So originally I thought to myself, Jensen Interceptor. Why? Because goldfish bowl back window, which allows actual solar energy to just come in and scorch people in the 2+2 bit. Then you've got very well-known hot, sweaty Mopar engine, which makes the transmission tunnel glow. So you've got that going on, and you've got the fact that hopefully I would option it in maybe black vinyl so that the whole inside is extremely tacky and hot.
Yes.
So you do get skin damage as well. No heated seats, but hopefully some heating to add to the pain.
Now, there's something else about, obviously getting hold of a Jensen Interceptor, and crucially, you'd have to have driven it for 200 miles, so the engine is absolutely white hot. Lock it in as low a gear as you can, and then just keep driving around and around till the engine is sizzling. But getting hold of a Jensen Interceptor may be quite tricky. I think there's a way in which you could make the MX-5 even worse, and it's quite achievable because those cars are quite small, and the turret, the glass house, is really small.
Yes.
Go and get a thick, heavy theatre backcloth, black, and have someone else or two other people lower it over the car once you're inside.
Oh, gosh.
And then essentially you both just roast beef in there, aren't you? That's going to be horrific at the best of times. But if you covered the car as well.
If I was doing the health and safety for this sport, I definitely have a paddling pool directly outside the car, so you could relieve yourself and by just diving into the pool as soon as you've called time out. So this is a game that I think we ought to play. Maybe we'll play it at Festival of the Unexceptional. Who knows? We'll find a really sweaty car that wants to kill its victims. That's a very good question, Joe. Maybe other people.
I'd say nice long drive in the MX-5, so it's all nicely warmed up and the heater can do its thing. But then, yes, a heavy backcloth lowered over the windows would, I think, just seal the deal.
Yeah. Are you both going to wear North Face puffer jackets while you're there?
Oh, God, that's yes, you have to wear winter clothing.
Awful. Or waterproof rubber trousers, the ones that you wear on a boat.
Joe, do let us know how this goes. We take no responsibility for any injuries or dehydration suffered. You started this, not us, but do keep us posted.
Right.
I'm going to move on to a message from a listener called Simon. Simon from Leek. I think we've had a message from him before. Leek in Staffordshire. He says, "Hi, you two." An uninsulting intro to a message.
It's good. It's rare.
I had the misfortune the other day to suffer from the motor vehicle malady, otherwise known as options envy. This isn't discussed enough in the same way that men's health isn't. 2 years ago, I purchased a pristine 2017 BMW M240i from my local dealer. The mileage wasn't low, but the condition of the car bordered on concourse. It was grey on black, not my favourite colour combo, but when I sat in it and it smelt of leather and nothing else, I was sold. The previous one owner had garaged the car and, to mark himself as a true enthusiast, put a small strip of Velcro between the seatbelt connector and the seat to reduce chafing.
Lovely.
I thought those cars came with that, but maybe not.
Some do, don't they?
Yeah, Simon said all was good. We negotiated a deal minus the paint protection and I went on my way. That was until I saw my mechanic's identical car, complete with American Diner red interior, cruise control and the LSD.
Oh, no.
I smiled thinly and said it was very nice, wishing his car would spontaneously combust in front of us. I now have a new mechanic. I just wondered, have you ever suffered from options envy as I did?
This is a top quality question, Simon from Lee.
Yes.
I have. I have had options envy before. It's, in fact, someone I know's got a Dodge Charger that's a 67, but it's almost a sister car to mine. It's a 383 cubic inch. It's a 4-speed manual floor shift. But being a 67, it's actually got a nicer dashboard, and it's the earlier generation of Charger, the first gen. And he has all of the original bills of sale and spec sheets with it, and it came with a limited slip diff as standard. And despite the fact that I don't want to be one of these people that owns the same type of car, multiples of the same type of car, I have always said to him, FFS, if you ever sell that car, I kind of need to know, really, because he's had it quite a long time now. And he also owns a Beetle of exactly the same year as mine as well, which has no rust, whereas mine has rust. So I have got, there is a bit of envy going on the hair.
I had a sort of options envy, I suppose. When we were making the first series of the Grand Tour, and I had my Defender, I was commuting to the office in it at that point, and TV's Richard Hammond had bought one of the other last of the line Defenders, but the Adventure edition. Do you remember those? They have them in orange with a black bonnet and a black tailgate.
Oh, yeah.
He bought a 110 Adventure around the same time I bought my car, and he came into the office one day in it, and we were just chatting about Defenders as we often do, and he went, you should drive mine sometime. And so he let me take it home that night, and I sort of wish I hadn't, because those Adventures came with a slight power boost, which was nice, but also they came with like a black headlining and extra soundproofing, and it just made the car a little bit nicer. And it felt sort of more expensive inside, just because mine's got like a bloody elastoplast stuck to the ceiling, and this had a proper sort of fabric black headlining. So it felt more proper, and it was quieter, and the engine pulled better. And I was a bit like, damn it.
Damn you. Has he still got that car, Richard?
I don't know, actually, because he chops and changes cars all the time. He had it for ages, but I don't know. I think he might have got rid of it, because the one that he always seems to just go back to is he's got another 110 utility wagons, so the ones that have back seats but then a van back behind that.
Yeah.
And he had one of those, sort of bronzy one of those, and that was his sort of baseline Defender that he sort of kept going back to, and he would sell. He had one of those V8 ones with the auto box on it that he didn't keep very long either. I don't know, actually. I should ask him, but yeah,
you should ask him, because it's probably worth $100,000 now, that bloody car.
Yeah, probably. But I was sort of like, I could have mine chipped to match that power output, and I suppose I could have extra soundproofing put in, but I just never got around to it. But it was a bit like, damn, I know this is possible now.
Yeah. It is annoying.
There we go. And also, with my Honda Beat, I look at people who've got the optional upgraded stereo as well, and I always go, "Ooh, extra speakers on the dashboard." Even though I don't really listen to the stereo in that car, but
do you convince yourself? Do you go on forums and say, well, it's all very well having speakers on the dash, but nobody can hear it when you're travelling at 70, so...
Well, it is sort of true, and they are actually a bit ugly, because they're sort of, they're these big lumps that sit on the dash top. I don't know why I'm so envious of them. But it is just that thing, isn't it? You just go, you've got a toy that I haven't got, because there's almost nothing else that you can option on that car. Although you could have an LSD on it, but I don't know anyone who has that, and what difference it would make anyway. Really.
Exactly.
All right. Can I do one more question?
Just do a quick one, which is, I actually read out... I've mentioned this in the main podcast, the beginning bit. The title is CVT Bill Withers. Lovely chap called Ash Gooders said, "Hi, I was recently listening to the song Lovely Day by Off of Bill Withers, who at the end of the track holds an impressively long note, and in my head all I could hear was a CVT gearbox and the concept of CVT Bill Withers attempting an uphill overtake on some cyclists, and it really had me cackling. Me too. I've read this letter several times and it does make me giggle. But can either of you think of other songs that remind you of something automotive related? After racking my brain, the only one that comes to mind is that iconic opening drum riff from In the Air Tonight by Phil Collins, reminiscent of dropping a 10mm socket into an engine bay and knocking ancillaries as it plummets to either the floor or the undertray. Yeah, it's so true. Are there any songs that fall into this category, or am I slowly going mad? CMTMB. Ash, I love this letter. CVT Bill Withers. Now that's a really good question.
I always think that the key change in Living on a Prayer is like when you're going up a hill in a fairly underpowered manual car and you have to quickly bang in a down change as you realise that it's not going to make it in fourth. And you can apply that to a lot of songs with that sort of style, particularly very 80s style of key change.
It is.
Belinda Carlisle used to do great ones, but the one in Living on a Prayer, because it is almost like it just goes up a lot all of a sudden.
But the speed of the car doesn't go up, does it?
No.
It just doesn't bog anymore. That's the only difference.
Well, that's it. John Bon Jovi was bogging down, so he just whacked it into third to take him to the summit of Living on a Prayer.
John Bog Jovi. Yeah, he refuses to bog. That's it. He'd rather sing it out. That's a really good one. Any others? I'll have to have a think about this one because I think I've got a good one in me. I'll come back to it, Ash.
Yeah.
I'm sure listeners will have good ones.
Well, exactly. So if you do have a suggestion for that, or if you have a question for us, hello@smithandsniff.com is the email address. We're back with a regular podcast on Monday. We'll do another question answering session next Friday. Until then, goodbye.
Bye, guys. Love you.